Welcome Algebra 1 students to another Regents review video. This is the August 2015 Algebra 1 Common Core Regents exam. So, welcome everyone for the solutions to this examination. Today we're going to be doing part 1, which is multiple choice, questions 1 through 12 of this examination. Once again, August 2015. Before we begin, once again, as usual, do not use this video to cheat on anything. Make sure that you actually do the problems. If you need help, then come find me. I'll always be here. And make sure that you learn from your mistakes. But don't come here to cheat, because that's just not right. And that's not cool. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure that you visit my website at www.nysmathregentsprep.com for much more math content in Algebra 1 and many more math subjects in your future. And I use the TI Inspire CX calculator for this video, and I really suggest that you buy one if you don't have one. It is quite an amazing tool. All right, without further ado, let's just jump right into this. All right, number 1, given the graph of the line represented by the equation f of x equals negative 2x plus b, if b is increased by 4 units, the graph of the new line would be shifted 4 units where? So let's talk about this for a second. This f of x equals negative 2x plus b, it should be buzzing around into your head that this is the equation of a line. And you know that the equation of a line is y is equal to mx plus b, right? B represents the y-intercept. That's just where the graph crosses the y-axis. So if it says it's shifted, if it's increased by 4 units, of course, it's going to be shifting up by 4 units. For example, if you have the line y is equal to x plus 1, and you take that b value, which is the 1, and you increase it by the number 4, isn't that just going to be y is equal to x plus 5? And that's a vertical shift up by 4 units. So that's why it is going to be choice 2, 4 units upwards. All right, moving on. Number 2. Rowan has $50 in a savings jar and is putting $5 in every week. Jonah has $10 in his own jar and is putting in $15 every week. Each of them plots his progress on a graph with time on the horizontal axis and the amount in the jar on the vertical axis. Which statement about their graphs is true? Okay, again, these sound like linear functions. So let's talk about Rowan for a second here. Rowan currently has $50 in his account. His jar. So I'm going to call this f of x, right? And he has $50 in his jar, and he's adding $5 every week. So that x variable represents the amount of weeks that he's putting his money in. And then we have Jonah, who I'm going to call g of x. He has $10, and he's putting in $15 every single week. Again, that x represents the amount of weeks. So these, again, are linear functions, just to get your brain going here. So it says, which statement is true? Okay, let's take a look at 1. Rowan's graph has a steeper slope than Jonah's. Again, I just said that these are lines. So remember, again, y is equal to mx plus b. That is the standard form of a line, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. They're saying that Rowan's graph has a steeper slope. Well, Rowan's slope is 5, and Jonah is 15. Well, that makes no sense, because in order for this to be a steeper slope, the m value has to be bigger than the other one. Rowan's is less steep. Rowan's graph always lies above Jonah's. Well, no, because if you were to go to your graph, and if I were to just actually graph these, let's see, so I'm going to graph Rowan's function, which is 50 plus 5x. Now, you really can't see it, but I'll move it in a moment here. And if I were to graph Jonah's, which is 10 plus 15x, so what they're saying here is they are saying that Rowan's graph always lies above Jonah's. So Rowan's is the blue. No, right here, Rowan starts to go below Jonah's graph. So that makes absolutely no sense. Jonah's graph has a steeper slope than Rowan's. Absolutely. Absolutely they do. Because Jonah's slope is 15 and Rowan's is 5. So therefore choice 3 is going to be the correct answer. Choice 4 says Jonah's graph always lies above Rowan's. And again, we just saw this. The red, which is Jonah's line, does lie below Rowan's at first, but then he starts to exceed it. So both play a role in that sense. But choice 3 is definitely the correct answer because the slope is steeper. Number 3, to watch a varsity basketball game, spectators must buy a ticket at the door. The cost of an adult ticket is $3 and the cost of a student ticket is $1.50. If the number of adult tickets sold is represented by A and a student ticket is sold by S, which expression represents the amount of money collected at the door from the ticket sales? So this is all that you're doing. You are taking the adult tickets, which one adult ticket is $3, so you're taking $3 times the amount of adult tickets sold, and you're adding on the $1.50 per student times the amount of student tickets that were sold. This, ladies and gentlemen, is your total revenue, or the total money earned. So the only one that shows that answer is going to be choice 4. It's just you're adding the amount of adult tickets sold times the $3 that they charge, plus the $1.50 times the amount of student tickets that were sold. So that's why it's going to be choice 4. All right, question 4. The graph of f of x is shown below. Which function could represent the graph of f of x? So notice here, ladies and gentlemen, that these are all factors. Okay? Let's talk about this. This graph intersects the x-axis at 3 locations. It intersects at the point x equals 1. Then it intersects at the point x equals -2. And then this intersects at the point x equals -4. So what you need to start figuring out here is, what are these things? These are called roots. So the roots are x equals -4, x equals -2, and x is equal to 1. So if the roots are those, what are the factors? Well, the factors are its opposite values. The factors are x plus 4, x plus 4, x plus 2, and x minus 1. Those are the factors. So if we go to our answer choices, well, let's figure out which one shows x plus 4, x plus 2, and x minus 1. Well, the problem is some of these are not factored all the way. So what we got to do is we got to say, hey, wait a minute. We have x plus 2, right? That's definitely a factor. That works. Now, does this polynomial right here factor to x plus 4, x minus 1? Well, let's see. If we factor this, what adds to positive 3 and multiplies to give you -4? Well, that factors into x plus 4, x minus 1, because 4 times -1 gives you -4, and 4 plus -1 gives you positive 3. And x plus 4, that works, and x minus 1, that works as well. Your answer is going to be choice 1. Now, let's just say that you had no idea how to do that. You could use your graphing calculator. If you go to your graphing calculator and you just graph this as x plus 2, and then you graph x squared plus 3x minus 4, watch what happens. You could actually just match the graph, and this is clearly the exact same graph over here. So your answer for this question is going to be choice 1. All right, moving on. Number 5, the cost of a pack of chewing gum in a vending machine is 75 cents. The cost of a bottle of juice in the same machine is $1.25. Julia has $22 to spend on chewing gum and bottles of juice for her team, and she must buy 7 packs of chewing gum. If B represents the number of bottles of juice, which inequality represents the maximum number of bottles she could buy? So the first thing that you got to think about is you got to think logically. She only has $22 to spend. That means that she cannot exceed $22. So you got to get rid of choices 1 and 3, because this is suggesting that she could spend more than $22. It has to be less than or equal to $22. She could spend $22 or she could spend less than $22. Now, it says that she must buy 7 packs of chewing gum. Well, chewing gum is 75 cents. So you just need to take 75 cents and multiply that by 7. And the only one that shows that is going to be choice 4. The bottles, which are B, is multiplied by $1.25 because that's how much the bottles of juice costs. So your answer for that one is going to be choice 4. All right, moving along. Number 6, which graph represents the solution of y is less than or equal to x plus 3 and y is greater than or equal to negative 2x minus 2? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to figure out this right here. Y is less than or equal to x plus 3. Well, unfortunately, notice all of these answer choices. They all show the correct lines, all right? They all show the correct lines. But the shading's different. The shading has to be below because it's less than or equal to. So the shading has to be below this line. Now, the only choice that shows that so far, or the only 2 choices that show it so far, is choice 3 and choice 2. So it cannot be choices 1 or 4, so you have to get rid of those answers. Now, for the second one, actually, I'm going to leave that there. For the second line, it shows y is greater than or equal to negative 2x minus 2. So again, these lines here resemble that. Now, y is greater than. Greater than means it's shading above. So that means it's going to be above this. And the only one that shows a cross-hatching solution, meaning that the lines overlap themselves, is right here. That's your solution set. Your answer is going to be choice 3. Choice 2 shows the opposite direction of shading, so that can't be the answer either. Okay? And that's the answer to number 6. Number 7. The country of Benin in West Africa has a population of 9.05 million people. The population is growing at a rate of 3.1% each year. Which function can be used to find the population 7 years from now? Okay, so you need to know this formula. And if you don't know it by now, please, I highly suggest that you do memorize it. A of t is equal to the principal times 1 plus or minus the rate raised to the t power. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the equation that you use to measure exponential growth or decay by a rate or a scale factor. So the principal, which is your starting amount, that's your starting amount. Well, you have a starting amount of 9.05 million people. 9.05 million people. Now, notice how all of these answer choices are in scientific notation. But what's nice about this question is that all of these are the same. So you don't need to worry about scientific notation in this case because they're all the same. It all depends over here on the numbers. So it's just 1 plus or minus r. Well, if it's growing at a rate of 3.1% each year, this has to be 1 plus the rate. Now, the rate is 3.1%. You have to convert the percent to a decimal point. So this has to be 0.031. And that is going to be raised to the 7th power because it's 7 years. So the answer for this one is going to be choice 3. Because that's your scientific notation right there. 1 plus the proper conversion of a decimal raised to the 7th power. And that's it. Number 8. A typical cell phone plan has a fixed base fee that includes a certain amount of data and an overage charge for data used beyond the plan. A cell phone plan charges a base fee of $62 and an overage charge of $30 per gigabyte of data that exceeds 2. If C represents the cost and G represents the total number of gigabytes of data, which equation could be used to represent this plan when more than 2 gigabytes are used? Okay. All this means is that the original plan, they actually give you 2 gigabytes to use. And if you go above 2 gigabytes, then they start to charge you money. Well, the base fee, I want to talk about this first. The base fee is $62. So that means that $62 is your constant number. Why is choice 1 and 2 being multiplied by 62? That makes no sense. It has to be a standalone number. That is your base fee. So per month, you get charged $62 just for having the phone and the service, and then they charge you more money if you start going over their plan. So now we just got to figure out, well, which one is correct? 2 minus G or G minus 2? Well, if you use, let's just say 3 gigabytes, you technically went over the plan by 1 gigabyte. 2 minus 3 is -1 for choice 3. Why all of a sudden they're making negative numbers? It has to be choice 4, because that G minus 2 takes in account for the first 2 gigs. Okay? So the first 2 gigs are accounted for, and then any additional gig gets added on, but then remember that we have to subtract the 2 from it. So for example, if you use 10 gigabytes for the whole month, you really used 8 gigabytes over the plan because 2 is included in the plan in the first place. So that's why it's going to be choice 4. Choice 3 would start producing negative numbers. That makes absolutely no sense, because why in the world would a cell phone company charge you less money if you're using more of their stuff? Makes no sense. Number 9. 4 expressions are shown below. The expression 4x squared minus 4x minus 120 is equivalent to what? So, we got to figure this out. Let's take a look at 1. If I were to distribute this 2 back in, does it result in this? Well, that gives us 4x squared minus 4x minus 120. So, yeah, that works, because that is what is given. So if we distribute that 2, that works. So choice 1 is a winner so far. So we could get rid of choice 2 automatically, and we could get rid of choice 4. Now we're down to a 50-50 shot. Let's take a look at this. If we distribute that 4 in, do we get the same result? Well, 4x squared minus 4x, 4 times -30, that is going to be -120. So this works as well. Now, since we're down to these 2 answers, let's jump right down to choice 4, or option 4. Well, if we take that 4x and we distribute it back in, we get 4x squared minus 4x, and then the minus 120 carries along for the ride. That works as well. Your answer is going to be choice 3. Not a terrible question. Not a terrible question. Moving on. Number 10. Last week, a candle store received $355.60 for selling 20 candles. Wow. Small candles sell for $10.98 and large candles sell for $27.98. How many large candles did the store sell? So you need to set up a system of equations to get this answer. So they sold 20 candles. That means that I'm going to add, let's just say, a small candle plus a large candle. That equals $20. No, I'm sorry, 20 candles. So this represents the total amount of candles you sold. And this equation down here, $10.98 plus $27.98. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me rewind. $10.98. This pen here. $10.98 plus $27.98 is equal to $355.60. This represents the amount of money that this company or this candle store received from selling how many candles. Well, they sold 20 candles, but now we got to figure out, well, how many small ones did we sell and how many large ones did we sell to get this result. So they're asking you how many large candles did they sell. So what I want to do right now is I want to cancel out my S values. And the reason why you want to cancel out your S values is you want to solve for L. You want to solve for how many large candles did this store sell. So I'm going to multiply the top by negative 10.98 in order to cancel out this little guy down there. So I'm going to distribute all of these inwards. So now I get negative 10.98 S plus a negative, which is really just minus, so I'm going to change it to minus 10.98 L is equal to negative 219.60 when you multiply that negative 10.98 times the 20. This bottom equation comes along for the ride. Okay? Those S values cancel. Now we're going to add these. We're going to add these two equations. So when you take 27.98 and you add a negative 10 on, that actually gives you 17L is equal to, now when you add these, you get 136. Divide by 17 on both sides, and you get the large candles to be 8. So the candle store sold 8 large candles, which is going to be choice 2. And that's how you do it. Now, If you don't like to solve the systems of equations this way, you could plug it into the calculator. Let me show that to you right now. If you go to your calculator and you go to Menu, Algebra, Solve Systems of Linear Equations, and I'm just going to change this to S and L, so S comma L for small and large. Press enter, and now I'm just going to plug it in. S plus L equals, sorry, that's an I, S plus L, JKL, there we go, S plus L equals 20, and then 1098S plus 2798L, and set that equal to 355.60, and you enter. So they sold 12 small candles and 8 large candles. So that's how you get that answer in the calculator. All right, moving on. Number 11, which representations are functions? Remember that function, in order for this to be a function, it has to pass the vertical line test. Okay, let's take a look here. By the way, in order to pass the vertical line test, x values cannot repeat. If an x value does repeat itself, it's not a function. If the x value does not repeat itself, it is a function. So let's take a look at choice 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 2. Nope. Those 2's repeat. It is not a function. Choice 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Choice 2 so far is a winner. Choice 3. Doesn't pass the vertical line test. Remember, in order to pass the vertical line test, it only could pass through one point. This passes through multiple, in this case 2. So this is not a function. Not a function. Now, for y equals 2x plus 1, this is a line that is on a slant. And all lines, well, not all of them, but in this case, this does pass the vertical line test. The only line, and this is quite interesting, the only line that does not pass the vertical line test is if you have a vertical line itself. So for example, if you have the equation x equals 1, any x value lines does not pass the vertical line test. Those are the only conditions where lines don't pass it. But in this case, if you graph the line 2x plus 1, you actually see that it does pass the vertical line test at every single point. So your answer is going to be choice 2. That is going to be 2 and 4. All right, last question of the video. Number 12, if f of x is equal to the square root of 2x plus 3 all over 6x minus 5, then f of 1/2 is what? So they're basically saying take the 1/2, which is your x value, and then you plug it in. So we get f of 1/2 is equal to the square root of 2 times 1/2 plus 3 all over 6 times 1/2 minus 5. So now we get the square root, well, 2 times 1/2 is 1, plus 3 all over 6 times 1/2 is 3 minus 5. 1 plus 3 is 4, okay? So that's going to be the square root of 4. All over 3 minus 5, which is negative 2. Now the square root of 4 is 2 divided by negative 2, so that's going to be negative 1. So your answer for this one is going to be choice 3. Okay, and that's just by plugging in 1/2 for x, get the value, and you're all done. All right, and that is the conclusion of this video. I hope that it helped. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure that you visit my website at www.nysmathreadersprep.com for much more math content in Algebra 1 and future math subjects, and I hope to see you soon.